NPC, non-playable character. We're going to talk about them again today because last video kind of blew up. We had people calling me an NPC, calling me AI, saying I was defending NPCs. I don't know why you guys get so frustrated whenever I try to explain things about NPCs, but we're here again. So listen, the internet, they love to use this term as an insult, right? We watch videos of people out in public just being completely on autopilot, repeating pre-programmed phrases, and just reacting to the world with the depth of a video game background character, right? A literal NPC. But I think I cracked the code, bro. I think I know something about NPCs I want to share with y'all. Now, this has to do with the argument of nurture versus nature, okay? I'll bring it up a little bit later in the video, but NPCs, I believe, are not born. I think they're manufactured, okay? Here's my theory. Human beings are human beings, all right? We're all people. No one enters this world without a soul. No one enters this world as an NPC, right? We are all a player character. But modern society has built a machine that actively strips people of their own humanity. When this happens, it leaves behind a hollow shell, which we call an NPC. I don't think what we're witnessing is a glitch in the population. I think it's a literal schism in the human mind, right? I mean, the term schizo means a split. You could call these people literal schizos, right? It's a mind being split away from its natural state and being plugged into a simulated reality. And that's the purpose of this video. I want to explain exactly how this is happening. So let's start with just basic biology. The human brain is the most complex structure in the known universe, right? Maybe not literally. I don't need someone in the comments saying, oh, actually, bro, this is an AI guy doing it. Dude, that was crazy. Someone called me AI, bro. This is clearly not a fucking AI voice. Anyway, scientists openly admit that they don't fully understand or have a grasp on what consciousness actually is or how a clump of cells creates a person. And I don't mean the body, but I more so mean like the soul, the consciousness, how brain cells make a person, right? But we do know what a brain is designed for. It's designed for observation, okay? The brain is almost like a damn watchtower. Is that what it's called? Oh, a lighthouse. The brain is like a lighthouse out in the water, okay? Look at your face. We have forward-facing predator eyes, right? Just like an apex predator in the wild. Our eyesight is incredibly sharp, okay? It's not number one in the world, but it's really, really sharp. Our entire body is just a big advanced sensory instrument designed for us to observe the world via all five senses. So you have to think about why. Why are we built this way? I think it's because humans are hardwired to pursue the truth. Now, I know you may be thinking, what the fuck does truth have to do with the world, bro? Look, we're the only animals on earth that actually have the ability to lie. What does that mean? Why can we lie? From a fundamental standpoint, why can we lie? I think this means that we're the only ones who can consciously recognize the boundary between what's real and what is fabricated, right? Because that's what a lie is. A lie is a deception of the truth, a deception of reality. Now, we have our five senses. We have what we can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I believe that these five senses are truly what keeps our brains grounded in reality. It's almost like in the movie The Matrix, you can be plugged into the Matrix. I think the five senses that we have keep us plugged into the real world. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, if you wanted to survive, you trusted your senses. You know the phrase, if it walks like a duck, looks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Your biology already knew how to read the environment. But like I said about plugging into the matrix or plugging into reality, what happens when you take that advanced evolutionary supercomputer and you just yank that shit out? You yank the plug out of the back of your head, out of reality. I think this is what causes that schism, right? Or causes you to be a schizo is what I mean, and causes that schism. The modern NPC epidemic comes from people leaving the real world and plugging themselves into the fake world, right? When you spend 10 hours a day digesting social media, TV, algorithms, and I don't know, just all forms of artificial environments, right? Your brain undergoes a huge psychological split. You begin to lose the very thing that makes you human, that makes you a player character. And instead, you end up reverting to this impulse-driven loop of the matrix, of the simulated artificial realities. Just like an animal trapped in a cage, I think your behavior becomes pure stimulus and response, right? I think that that's why these NPCs, they start to look and appear, not physically, but their actions start to look animalistic. You know, they start to appear almost closer to cavemen than modern man, because I think that they're interacting literally with a program, with a simulation. And I gotta say, I think the culprit is modern society as a whole, because modern society literally trains us to actively distrust our own biology. Think about the word education. Today, being educated doesn't mean that you're learning how to think, right? You would assume someone who has a firm grasp, right, on thinking itself would be considered extremely intelligent, someone you want to go and talk to, someone who would be a celebrity, someone who would be popular and have masses following them. But instead, what we value as a society, which is education teaches you how to repeat what you've heard, right? That's what they say learning is. What we're doing is outsourcing the human intuition to an authority figure or just to a text box, right? Like, it's a huge appeal to authority. We say, hey, the teacher told me this, the college professor told me this, therefore I'm educated now. And then you don't ever think about it. You just say, hey, I can repeat it, I'm smart. But let's go to, before education. And obviously I'm just talking about like the school system. Obviously you could always be educated. It's just called learning something. I understand that. But I'm saying, let's go way back in the day, right? If a human in nature were to catch a fish, okay, wild salmon, they eat that fish and their body instantly knows, hey, this is good for me. Their ancient biology would signal strength and vitality, okay? But the modern, I guess you could say, educated mind, they may go ignore how their body feels, open up a phone and type in, is salmon healthy? And then live by whatever paragraph they were able to read, right? Which you're going to get some weird website that says, well, salmon is high in saturated fat, therefore you should limit the amount of salmon you eat. Bro, the motherfucker back in the day eating salmon, guess what? Dude was probably healthy as hell, strong as hell, because he wasn't succumbing to some authority figure that's telling him bullshit so they can get extra funding. Or we can go look at a billionaire or some corporation spraying literal poison on our crops. Think about some uneducated human, right? They just use common sense to navigate the world. So they're just going to use common sense and say, okay, hold on, bro. Poison kills. That means poison bad. But see, for like the NPCs, a digital program would step in and say, well, you have to look deeper into this. You have to go look at the corporate sponsored study that they're going to put out 2 years from now. That's going to tell you, oh shit, my bad, bro. The poison was kind of bad for you, right? It's this appeal to authority because they've unplugged from reality. They yanked out that cord out the back of their damn head from reality and they plugged into the matrix. They plugged into the cell phone. They plugged into the internet. They removed their 5 senses and forfeited their grasp on reality to an authority figure on the internet. And the authority figure is probably AI, bro. Because here's the thing is, the second that your natural intuition spots a contradiction in this matrix, a mental firewall should pop up, right? But the NPC mind automatically labels reality as a conspiracy theory because they can no longer handle things that are glaringly obvious to the 5 senses. And just in case I'm speaking in tongues basically, and it's confusing as hell to understand what I'm saying, look, I have a real world example for you guys. All right, you guys may know someone like this, or you may do this yourself, but I'm gonna show you just how deep this autopilot loop can really go. Think about how many times you've seen someone get dressed in the morning, right? Look at their phone and check the weather app because they're about to walk out the door. They wanna know what to wear, right? But think about how fundamentally insane this actually is for a second. 78 degrees doesn't feel the same for everyone. 78 degrees is going to change depending on humidity, depending on the wind, depending on how your internal biology feels that day. You have to think about this. Have you eaten recently? If you're digesting food, your metabolic rates can be a little higher. You're going to feel a little warmer. Are you in a fasted state? You're going to feel a little bit cooler. How are your hormones right now, especially for the women? Your hormones fluctuating causes you to feel warmer or cooler. So what we're doing is we're letting a satellite in space and a tech company's algorithm that cannot feel your skin. They don't know your metabolism. We're letting them dictate, or not dictate. We are passing the agency over to them and saying, you tell me how hot it feels, so I will dress according to the number you give me. And I'm not claiming that temperature is fake or a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying, why are you doing this? A normal human response to deciding what to wear is to walk 20 steps to your fucking front door, crack that bitch open, and go outside and stand in the actual atmosphere for 30 to 60 seconds. See how your body feels, and then go get dressed accordingly, bro. But the NPC response is just to stay isolated in a bedroom, staring at a glowing piece of glass, and just let this digital amalgamation of bullshit give them permission on what they can and can't wear that day. So listen, bro, when you see an NPC in the wild, I'm saying you can laugh at them, but don't just laugh at them. I think you should realize that what you're staring at is a complete and utter tragedy of humanity. You're looking at a human being whose active consciousness has gone into a deep sleep mode because they have completely surrendered their five senses to a freaking simulation. They are literally trapped in the loop. They are fully plugged into the matrix. They've been ripcord yanked out of reality. So my final question is this. How much of your day is actually spent observing the physical world around you versus how much of it is spent reacting to some algorithm or program? I think we need to step outside, trust your eyes, trust your senses, trust your ears, nose. I'm not going to say trust your mouth. That's a little sus. But ultimately, break the script.